This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for January 2nd, 2025. This is season 14, episode number 32, and this is episode number 471 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me. It is a brand new year. Happy New Year. It is 2025. Thank you very much. My name is Bob Howard. Thank you very much for listening to the show and the continuous support that I keep getting. I want to say thank you to everybody in 2024 who listened to the show, who read any of my comments or any of my articles on the Facebook group. Just thank you very much for being a part and helping me make this better. Whether it was praise or criticism, thank you so much for just being a part and paying attention to everything that we've done here with the Power Play Post Show. We have a great 2025 planned, and hopefully we'll just continue bringing you the best content we can, whether it be pictures, whether it be articles, whether it be this podcast here. Again, thank you very much. I hope everybody has a phenomenal 2025. I know personally I'm hoping that it will be just filled with a little bit more happiness and a little bit better health. And, as some people know who are my friends on Facebook that listen to the show, I do realize that I've gone through some adversities myself, but hopefully 2025 will be better for my wife and I. So let's get right into this because there's a lot to talk about. And of course we have, we're starting off 2025 on our first episode with an in-depth interview. As you hear Rob Lapolis sometimes say, in-depth interviews, this one is definitely going to be an in-depth interview. It's going to be an interview that people are going to talk about. And without a doubt, it is going to be an interesting one, and I cannot wait for everybody to hear this. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search for the Power Play Post Show. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And on this edition of the Power Play Post Show, HC Venom Head Coach MJ Maerkl. That's right, former Binghamton Black Bear and a native of Binghamton, New York, MJ Maerkl will be on the show. And it's a long interview. I will warn you guys right now, this may take a couple sittings for you to listen to the whole interview, but I hope everybody does. There's a lot to be said about MJ Maerkl, his time with the Binghamton Black Bears, and of course, everything that he's trying to go through to keep the HC Venom going and running strong. So, let's talk a little bit about last night's game, New Year's Eve game. Another great outing for the Binghamton fans showing up in full force. Another 48-93 sellout attendance. Phenomenal job by the fans being there at the game and supporting Binghamton hockey. It's just great up and down the board. I think this is the second sellout now in 4 years for the Black Bears and for Binghamton hockey. And near the latter part of the Senators' days, we weren't getting sellouts even on New Year's, and now that's happening. So phenomenal job by the Binghamton Black Bears staff and, of course, by the fans, the fans yourselves, coming out and supporting the Black Bears on New Year's Eve. There is a new love for hockey in Binghamton, and a big part of that is because of the Binghamton Black Bears and the staff and the people and the players themselves. So a lot of credit has to go to a lot of different people and places and things that has gotten it to this point. And if history repeats itself, the Black Bears are going to lose a lot of fans over the next 3 months, because history has normally said if you go to the finals, you still have a decline in attendance the next year. That was year 3 that the Binghamton Black Bears won the championship. And this year, the attendance has gone up. They are bucking the trend. They are stopping the trend. And I can tell you, the Dusters went to the finals. The next year, the attendance went down. The Whalers went to the finals. They lost, like the Dusters did. The attendance went down. The Senators went to the finals, won the Calder Cup, and the attendance still went down the next year because people didn't change the way they did things. The leadership group just didn't make a difference. The Black Bears haven't seen that decline. There is a different vibe with the Black Bears and their fans, which includes some old traditional fans, right? And it includes a lot of new fans. And I think, when you get the support of the college, with the people that come to this college, for BCC and or SUNY Binghamton, and they come to the games and they have a good time. And if they do have a good time, guess what? They're going to come back. And there has been that this year. There has been that these last 4 years. So either way, great crowd, 48-93. But let's talk about the game a little bit. The Black Bears did defeat the HC Venom by the score of 7-2. Okay, the Black Bears got on the scoreboard first with a tally from Gavin Yates. Good to see him scoring, who got an unassisted goal at the 4:51 mark into the game. Now, the first 3 goals were unassisted for the Black Bears. I mean, come on. How often do you see that? But certain situations, you might steal the puck from the Venom or something might happen where their goalie, touches, handles the puck and you get a tally. But the first 3 goals get no assist, which is crazy. The captain, Tyson Kirkby, then scored the game's second goal of the game, also unassisted at the 12:56 mark, making this a 2-0 game. However, the story of the night, and I believe this is the story of the night, happened at the 5:55 mark of the second period, as Tyson Kirkby and Cam Cervoni were in the penalty box. So the Venom at this point are on a 5-on-3. Okay, and Dakota Bond, for the second year in a row, he did this last year as well, scored his first goal of the season, this being his first goal of the season this season, but it was a 5-on-3 shorthanded goal. His second 5-on-3 shorthanded goal of his career. And I'm telling you right now, it doesn't happen that often. It's just not an occurrence that you see all the time. And I have to be honest, I don't think I've ever seen it in Binghamton. Maybe it's happened before, and I think I talked about this last year when this happened. I've never really seen this happen. It just doesn't happen that often. So it's a shorthanded goal for Dakota Bond. He gets his first of the season. He had like 20 assists coming into this game. And I think the most assist for a defenseman as well. So he's not been playing bad, but he got the monkey off his back. You could see him when he celebrated. He kind of brushed the monkey off his back. So congratulations to Dakota for that goal. And again, just another example of how skilled these guys are, that even on the penalty kill, the instincts of when to do this, because you don't just do this at any time. You have to have the right instincts of when the right time is to go and do that. Because what you're doing is you are leaving, in some cases, 1 or maybe 2 players just back to help defend that shorthanded chance. And, when you're on 5-on-3, nobody thinks about that. They're just thinking about putting the triangle defense into place. And no, Dakota Bond just has an instinct about when to do it, which is pretty good. All right, so not to be outdone, Tyson Kirkby scored his second goal of the game, also shorthanded, 15 seconds into the final period. So now we're into the third period, and a lot of scoring happened in the third period. Dakota Bond then scored a power play goal, scoring his second goal of the game at the 8:16 mark, making this a 5-0 lead for the Black Bears. And I think a lot of people at this point thought the Black Bears are going to shut them out, and Connor McAnana was going to have his second shutout in a row. However, the Venom then got on the score sheet with a goal 10 seconds after the Bond power play, making this a 5-1 game. off the stick of Dezanis Zajac. The Venom then scored their second goal of the game off the stick of Danila Belov, just 2 minutes and 37 seconds later, putting the score to 5-2. And now everyone's thinking, well, wait a second here. We got to play a little bit better defensively, maybe. Maybe we need to slow things down. However, with Mark Pozar in the box for tripping, the Don Father Daniel Oliveri, who is second in the league right now with scoring on the power play, scored the Black Bears' second power play goal of the game with 5:56 left to go in the third period. Finishing the scoring in the game, Caden Henry scored the Black Bears' seventh goal with 4:37 left to go in the game, securing a 7-2 win for the Black Bears, their seventh win in a row and 20th of the season. Okay, so my thoughts on the game. Listen, they literally pounced on the Venom in this game. Getting the goals early like they did and getting that fifth goal in the third period. Yes, the Venom came back and they had I think I would say a really good 4 minutes where they scored those two goals. I think the difference was like 2 minutes and 37 seconds. The Black Bears really pounced and dominated the puck control. The Venom didn't have Norica. They didn't have Dustin Jesso, who's out with a suspension. Unfortunately, his emotions get the best of him again and gets another suspension. And, Coach Sherwood knows best. He tried to help, Dustin Jesso. And I talked to MJ Maerkl about that, and he knows that's a challenge. It is a challenge. To handle someone like Dustin Jesso, who's got all this pure physical talent, but doesn't have the mental fortitude to keep things together. And that's the unfortunates of that. That is just the unfortunates. Remember, I talk about those three qualities of being a great hockey player. It's physical skill, it's hockey IQ, and mental fortitude. And unfortunately, Dustin has that problem. But this game last night was great by the Black Bears. It was great to see Kyle Steffen and Cade Henry again playing after battling injuries. There was a possibility that they were going to be out longer than they were. This was an excellent game by the Black Bears. 62 shots, 7 goals, 2 shorthanded goals, 2 power play goals from all 3 lines. Everything was clicking. The defense, I thought, played really good as well, right? They played good in front of Connor McAnanima, and then it's another great performance for Connor McAnanima and the defense that played in front of him. The Black Bears are now on a 7-game winning streak. What else there can be said? They have earned 20 of a possible 21 points in those 7 games. They are 23-1 with 57 points and have a .792 winning percentage. All this is tops in the league. I don't think there's much more to be said from that. But I did want to read something that I wrote earlier today or early on Wednesday after the game, my day after game report. I wrote something about the Black Bears 2024 season or 2024 calendar year. Okay, so this is from January to December. I thought there was some really good information in here that I wanted to share again here on the Power Play Post Show. The Binghamton Black Bears had a great 2024. There is no question about that. In the 2024 calendar year, the Black Bears were 40-11-3. Okay, that's all the wins, losses, and OTL losses from January of 2024 to last night's 7-2 win over the HC Venom. 2024 was great to the Black Bears as they scored 272 goals and only allowed 156 goals. They also won all 7 playoff games that they played in 2024 and outscored their opponents 31-13 in those 7 games. They hoisted the city's first championship since 2011 in May and started to set themselves up for another great year in 2025. Andreas Johansson, Brant Sherwood, and Tyson Kirkby, hands down, were the class leadership in the FPHL from owner to head coach to captain in the FPHL, and it showed in the structure of the front office, the hockey staff, to the leadership on the ice. I don't think you can come up with a better group of leaders in single-A hockey markets who had a better leadership core. In 2024, the fans in Binghamton rose to the occasion with 9 sellouts from 48-93 8 times, and then 5,111 fans on May 10th for the Game 3 clinching Commissioner Cup's championship. The most fans any Binghamton hockey team has ever had in Binghamton in 52 years. So it was a good 2024 for the Black Bears. And I think all they want to do is continue repeating that success, whether it be back office and how they're building the business here in Binghamton, to how they play on the ice. I think they just want to repeat that. I wanted to put that out here. All right, the Black Bears will travel to Michigan for 2 games against the Port Huron Prowlers on Friday night and Saturday night. Both games are scheduled for a 7:05 start time. The Black Bears are 3-1 against the Prowlers this year, and may also been some of the most competitive games of the season. I thought because of the way the Prowlers played, I really do think that those were fun games to watch. Maybe frustrating for the players to play, but I think kind of fun for us because there was a strategy that Matt Graham had his players doing that did get into the heads of the Black Bears a little bit. All 4 games have been close, including a 2-0 shutout win for the Black Bears on November 9th, where Connor McAnanima saved all 21 shots on goal he faced. The Black Bears will need to play more of their game and not Port Huron. So I still think you have to think about how do we play our run and gun? How do we get 60 shots on goal, right? Yes, Port Huron will try to get under the skin of the Black Bears using their body and sticks to plug lanes and frustrate. However, the Bears need to combat this with fast, crisp passing and pepper shots on whenever netminder they see. More than likely, it's going to be Nuusanainen, but it'll be interesting to see if they can play their style of hockey against Port Huron and see truly how they would match up to Port Huron's really good defensive play. We'll see. It is Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm going to imagine that the Black Bears are probably traveling on Thursday. So there's not a lot of practice during the Christmas and the New Year's weeks, because they just don't have time. I'm sure that Coach Sherwood gave them Wednesday, New Year's Day off, but probably they're going to be at the rink and maybe even traveling on Thursday. It'll be very interesting to see really what kind of happens there. So that's it for me. We'll talk more about the Port Huron series on Sunday with our weekend wrap-up show. But coming up next here on the Power Play Post Show, he played for the Binghamton Black Bears. He's a Binghamton native. He played at Broome CC with the Broome Hornets. Okay, he is a local guy who is now coaching the HC Venom, and we're talking about MJ Maerkl. And there's a lot of stuff to talk about with MJ. So coming up next here on the Power Play Post Show is my interview with MJ Maerkl of the HC Venom. And we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
You're listening to the Power Play Post Show. Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. This has been a highly anticipated interview that I know that I've been excited about for the last few weeks, knowing that this was going to come up, and I think it is for MJ as well. So coming to us from the HC Venom, he is the head coach of the Venom. He is MJ Maerkl. MJ, welcome to the show from a Binghamton native. I call myself a Binghamton native because I am from the greater Binghamton area to an actual Binghamton native. Welcome to the show. It's good to have you on, and I'm glad that two people that have skated on almost all the same ice here in the greater Binghamton area can meet and talk here on the show.
Yeah, Bob. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to catch up with people from Binghamton, and now I get to do it with someone focused on hockey. It's a good feeling. So I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you, and congratulations on becoming the head coach of the Hudson Valley Venom, now the HC Venom. As a guy who, I will say this, I'm a man, I don't care. I'm proud of you. I'm proud that a Binghamton guy, born and raised here in Binghamton, can start to achieve these kind of levels. I know we've had a couple players who maybe were born in Binghamton, but really kind of lived elsewhere, gone and playing in the AHL and the NHL, things of that nature. But it's great to see a guy who is working his way up through and starting to do stuff like, be a coach. So I'm proud of you, man. I really appreciate you, and I wish you the best of luck.
I really appreciate that, Bob. Obviously not the start any of us ever would have intended. But I'm learning something new every day. I go into each day with a fresh attitude. Obviously, the cards we've been dealt with this season, they are what they are. But we have a tremendous group of guys, and I enjoy going to work every day. So it makes it that much better. It really does, and I really do care about these guys and what they do with their careers. So just trying to keep it all together.
As a player and a guy who did make it, and you went to play. You played Division III hockey. You've obviously played at the Fed level, pro level. Can you talk to me what youth hockey really is in Binghamton? Because youth hockey wouldn't be as prevalent as it is in Binghamton and the greater Binghamton area without all the pro hockey teams that have been here over the last 52 years in Binghamton, from the Dusters even up to the Black Bears now. Because of those programs, the programs that you played in when you were a kid really mattered, and you played for Randy McGregor. So there is, can you talk a little bit about, youth hockey here in Binghamton and how important it was that the pro teams really did help the youth teams?
Yeah, it's just a tremendous experience to be involved with hockey in Binghamton. I've always said it's been a very rich hockey town. The passion the fans have for the team specifically, whichever it may be, whether it be Fed, the old UHL, the AHL, always passionate, always wanting the best for the team. I had a very good experience with my time in Binghamton with youth hockey. I usually got to play with the same group of kids each and every year. We bounced back and forth between AA and AAA. Mm-hmm. Randy was a tremendous mentor for us. God taught me how to play hockey the right way. There's no simple way to slice it. A guy with all that experience. Plus, he wasn't only coaching us for hockey; he was coaching us for life. We were a bunch of privileged kids, just kind of having fun with hockey, and he kind of, opened our eyes that we could be something really special. And I know there's not a whole lot of people that heard about that '93 birth year team, but we were a very good hockey team, and there was a lot of people looking at that team when we played hockey games, and we played some very, very high level names. A lot of people, we bring it up. We played against Johnny Gaudreau growing up, and when we went to go to some of these tournaments, we played in front of a bunch of other, guys that are in the NHL right now. So, Randy he brought us to all these high level tournaments, brought us to Canada all the time. The amount of people we had around us, we had guys like Pete Ferrantino, mm-hmm. Another tremendous mentor that was in our youth hockey program. All these guys that stuck around that used to play pro here in Binghamton back in the day, they kind of stuck around and just kind of laid the foundation for us. So to be a part of something like that with as much credibility as, hockey and youth hockey has in our area, it was really special to be a part of, for sure.
Okay, I have to ask you, did Ferrantino teach you how to fight?
No, actually, so his son was either a year or 2 years older than me. Mm-hmm. So he was always like, we played with them once in a while. There was like me and a small group of guys that would go and help every once in a while, when we go to play like Syracuse or like post team, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But no, Pete, I didn't really get a chance to get on the ice too much with Pete. Every once in a while we would, but Pete was a very, straightforward, kind of scary guy when you're at a young age. So, I kind of put my head down when I ever saw him around the rink. But, I played against his son, Brett. I think it's Brett. Brett Ferrantino. He played against me in community college because obviously I didn't really have a plan after high school. I was a multi-sport athlete in high school, so I didn't really just focus on hockey. So, I had opportunities to go play football in college, and then in my senior year I decided that I didn't really like football. So my focus shifted. I went to community college at Broome, where I played Pete's son, Brett, at Hudson Valley Community College. Or I think it's Hudson Valley.
Yeah, it is Hudson Valley Community College, yeah.
Yep, and that was the first time. Obviously I had seen Brett skating around the rink and stuff like that while we were playing youth, but that was the first time I had seen him in years. And he's a very good hockey player in his time. So, it's always cool to experience stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Randy McGregor. He's an icon. He's a legend in Binghamton when it comes to hockey. 634 games played, 190 goals, 286 assists for 476 points. Played with the Dusters, played with the Whalers. He played in the old North American Hockey League. He played in the AHL. Probably one of the best AHL players to play in Binghamton for such a long time. No one has even come close to that. And he's taught. I mean, he's probably put his impression on many youth hockey players. Would you not agree?
Oh, I would absolutely agree. I mean, to this day, I still have conversations with my buddies. I mean, my good friend Rich Bodden, he lives up the road from my parents. I see him pretty often. I mean, we talk about our days with Randy very, very often. And we sure do wish we had a rewind button, because those were some of the best times and best games of our lives, truthfully.
MJ, BCC, you were there for 2 years playing there. It's a program that no longer is there anymore. Why do you think that the BCC program never took off the way it should have? Being a hockey town, I mean, yeah, we've always had, minor league baseball, but for some reason, this always feels, and they've won 3 championships. I think between the B-Mets and the Rumble Ponies, there's 3 championships there, right? And This always still feels like a hockey town. Why do you think the BCC Hornet program never really kind of took off the way I thought maybe it could have? Yes, it's the NJ instead of the NCAA or even club hockey.
Yeah, the NJCAA. Yeah.
So why do you think it may have never taken off the way it should? You were there for 2 years. Yeah.
So truthfully, I'm sure anybody that is a active hockey player in the area can say that and this is what we spoke about a little bit earlier. Off air, but I think anybody in Binghamton can agree that the quality of hockey has dropped a little bit. And I think people are taking good steps in terms of getting the quality of that back up.
Right.
Like I said before as well, my end goal here is to obviously end up back in Binghamton and continue to work with kids and get back to the community. And I would love to at one point be just a developmental guy for the program in the area. So. Truthfully, it's a mix of things, right? So, there's some of those programs have, kids that, not necessarily showing up for games. Some of them might have funding issues. It's not just Broome that had the issues, right? I think if anything, Broome was more of the more legitimate programs in that league. So I wouldn't necessarily say that it was that I would aim all the fault on Broome and the functionality, because I'll be honest, we had a phenomenal trainer when I was there. We had a state-of-the-art locker room. The locker room's nicer than the one that we currently have, and my past 3 teams, truthfully. It's a very nice facility. During my time there, we were averaging quite a few fans. I'm not exactly sure what capacity is, but it was very, very loud.
I think it's 780. 783, I think, is the capacity. So just shy of 800.
Yeah, we were in my 2 years there. We were fairly competitive, and we had guys like local guys. Brad DeFerris. We had my second year there. I had his younger brother Zach DeFerris. Guys from Ithaca all over the place. Just guys that we played didn't really have a plan after high school who I played travel hockey with. Hey, I'm planning on coming to Broome because you guys have a really nice rink, and I want to continue to play hockey while I go to school for cheap, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't necessarily place all the fault on Broome. Sorry, I'm walking in my.
No, absolutely.
I wouldn't exactly. Yeah, like I said, I don't think it's exactly Broome's fault because as far as like, as well as like Morrisville, I mean, I had an extremely good experience at Broome. Got to go to school, play hockey in my hometown as well. Extremely convenient for me. I worked a full-time job while I went there. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think it was just like the structural things with the NJCAA and the funding, because obviously there's a lot that goes into budget. These guys have to charter a bus if they don't own a bus. We're talking at least $600 to $700 on a fuel bill every road trip.
Sure.
Plus the cost of actually renting the driver. You got to feed the guys. I truthfully think it was probably a funding thing, honestly.
Yeah, more than anything. I don't disagree with you. Do you remember much of the 2011 Binghamton Senators Calder Cup championship team?
I still got videos saved on my phone from when they won the cup.
Yeah.
I was in quite a few of those playoff games that year.
How much of that was inspiring to continue to play at a high level of competitive hockey for you?
I mean, truthfully, there wasn't many games at that arena that I missed. I worked when the Senators were there. I worked chuck a puck for years. I was on the ice pretty much every game. We were selling chuck pucks pretty much every game. Me and my family. So I would say I was invested in just about any team that came into that arena. Especially during those Calder Cup days. Just based off of our regular numbers and what we would see for attendance, and then walking into a playoff game and seeing barely being an empty seat in the arena with as chaotic of an environment as it was at that time, I think it was unbelievable.
You obviously went to go play 2 seasons with Morrisville State College. They have produced a lot of pro players since your time. I know your final season there, CJ Stubbs, who's now with the Black Bears, was playing there. What can you tell us about Morrisville State? I've had Cam Clark on, who's from Morrisville State. Chris Mott, a couple other players who played obviously after you there at that program. Why is that program a program that continues to produce FPHL, SPHL, and even a couple ECHL players?
Well, truthfully, I think it's just existing relationships. Kevin Krogel, he's got a very specific type of player that he recruits. Not necessarily soft, hard-nosed. I'm sure Brant can agree with me with the style of play that the SUNYAC brings. Yeah. As far as recruits. It's just, in my opinion, it's just the more all-around Division III conference in my eyes, just as far as size, skill, and speed. Yeah, I mean, truthfully, how I kind of, I guess, worked up the courage to make the jump to pro was, I had a bunch of guys before me that had already made the jump. Like, hey, you're doing just as well as this guy. I mean, it's introduced you at a very early stage of your time there, right? So, like, hey, like you're on pace to do what this guy has been doing, and he's in the SPHL right now. And I'm like, oh, obviously I'd heard of the SPHL, but like I had never thought it would be obviously a future goal of myself.
Right.
Basically how I saw it is I just continued to climb the ladder. That year at junior when I was out of community college, I was pretty overweight, and I ended up losing like close to 100 pounds in over a year and a half between junior and my entry level into Morrisville. So it was just basically it was me just taking every day with a grain of salt, and just it's a privilege to just be continuing to play hockey, because I truthfully thought I was done after Broome, my 2 years at Broome.
What about Danville? You obviously get to Danville and you start playing with the Dashers, and you guys have a good season in the 2016-2017 season. What was your first year of pro like?
Honestly, I entered the league when it was a pretty rough style, honestly. It was pretty similar to kind of my role In Binghamton, my first and only year, realistically, because I didn't finish my second year. But yeah, it was just I was brought in to basically be a physical defenseman and play shutdown D. I mean, in college, obviously, I ran power play units, and the coach used my shot where he saw fit. But basically, my job there was just to be a shutdown D, not expect anything, and if I needed to fight every once in a while, I fought. But realistically, I was just a rookie that thought I was getting cut every other week. I think most people can agree that your first couple of games in this league, you never know when it's going to be your last day.
Right.
It's that basic consensus for most players. Like, I don't know where I stand right now. I haven't had much conversations with the coaches, so it was a very uneasy year for me. Obviously, they ended up winning the championship after I separated from the team with my injury, and it was unfortunate that I couldn't finish the season with them. But it is what it is. It gave me the motivation to come back out the following year. Unfortunately, it was cut a bit short with having to have the surgery on my leg. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. I mean, I got to be a part of a championship team, and then the following year, Watertown, after I broke my leg, they ended up winning the championship as well. So technically, I'm 0 for 3 with rings.
No,
I got Danville, I got Watertown, and now I got Binghamton.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because you didn't just, after the Watertown and the surgery, you didn't come back until 2021. So
right.
Talk a little bit about that time away from hockey, or at least away from your playing days, so to speak, between 2017 and 2021.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't exactly on contract. It was during a preseason game when the injury happened, so I ended up being kind of left on my own as far as surgery on myself. I didn't exactly belong to a team at the time.
Right.
So, because it was on a PTO, not exactly a standard player contract.
Yep.
So, I was basically left to fend for myself, and it was a bit discouraging because I basically had to heal myself up and go right back to work to pay for the surgery I just had. So, I decided to just kind of stay busy and stay at work, and then lo and behold, 4 or 5 years later, Federal League team pops up in Binghamton, and I see all my buddies that I used to play with start signing, Kyle Powell being one of them.
Yeah.
Which, love the kid to death. If I truthfully wouldn't really be in Binghamton. I mean, I'm sure eventually I could have made it in there, but if it wasn't for that kid, I probably wouldn't have had any time in Binghamton, because my first experience with the Black Bears, I was actually a spectator.
So you were a fan in the stands?
Yeah, I was a fan in the stands, and I was just there to enjoy the game after I had gotten out of work. And I was actually standing up on the handicap deck because I hadn't seen the full roster yet. It was during warm-ups. Mm-hmm. And I ended up making eye contact with Kyle, and he basically threw his hands up at me. He's like, "What are you doing? Why aren't you playing?"
So where did that relationship come from? Was it when you were in Watertown and you got the injury? Was that where you met Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, during the Watertown season, it was, me and him grew really, really close in our short amount of time together. And, he had played for, I had played against Kyle as well when he was with Watertown, when I was with Danville the year before as well. So, yeah, I mean, it was just a familiar face, and it was just like, wow, I haven't seen you in 6-7 years. Why aren't you playing hockey right now like I am?
Yeah. So, talk about that first time you did get onto the Binghamton ice as a pro. You'd obviously played there. You probably were one of the mini-mites that I was laughing at one point during, maybe Iceman days or something. Somebody falling.
Oh, absolutely.
Look at there's Maerkl's kid.
We were on the front. I wore a yellow helmet. We were at the front with how they used to put the Iceman jerseys on you and put the milk mustache on. I got a picture of me and my cousin with our Iceman jerseys on. Nice. So my point, but back to it. You were you skate onto the ice for the first time as a pro.
I talked to Gino about this. How did that feel? I mean, it must have felt like a dream come true to be a pro out there. You were in that home locker room, which is beautiful. I mean, let's be honest. It's one of the best home locker rooms in minor league sports. It really is. When the Senators got that redone, they did top-notch, the weight room and all the different amenities that are there. It's very nice. Yeah. But what did it feel like to ski on the ice for the first time as a pro?
It was a bit of a shock for me, honestly. I never in a million years would have thought that I would have been in that position, especially kind of how it, I guess, originated. Obviously me and Kyle had the initial run-in when I was a spectator, and then it was pretty much the following weekend. We had exchanged a few text messages, and, he was pretty much like, hey, just so I know, would you be interested in playing if we ever need a guy? And then no more than 3 days later, they had 3 call-ups and 2 guys get injured. He's like, hey, I'm going to send you a contract right now. I need you to fill it out and send it back to me and get your gear and come to the rink. And, I sat there because they started me my first night. I guess I believe it was against Port Huron.
Okay.
And, I remember looking up in the crowd, and I was just like, this is probably, one of the better experiences I've ever had. It was pretty much a dream come true because, truthfully, I had never been able to, since I left for Maerkl, I had never been able to play in front of my hometown. Even when I was with Danville, we didn't get to, we played in Watertown one time, but it was, so my first weekend I signed with Danville, I had traveled out to Danville.
Yeah. And
then we had as soon as I got there, we practiced for 2 days and we traveled right back up to Watertown. So it was, that was the closest, my family showed up for that game, but that was the only time they had been able to see me skate. So, I told them that, I was going to be signing with the team and playing in this weekend's games, and they kind of lost their mind too. So
they
started reaching out to fans. I had people reaching out to me like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, well, I'm going to show up to the rink and I'm going to play hockey. So we'll see how this goes. It's been a couple of years.
30 games, 160 penalty minutes. You obviously had a role on the team. I think out of all the players that have played for the Black Bears, your penalty minutes per game is the highest of everybody's. But you also got to play on the ice with Matthew Ballard, who a lot of people, think of as that resident tough guy in Binghamton for 3 years. What was your relationship like with Matthew?
My relationship with Matthew is fantastic. Our girlfriends are pretty close. Our family, my family and his girlfriend's family are actually really close as well. He's a fantastic kid, and to have the mindset and the skill set that he has, and he's a determined player. For him to have that at such an early age, it's encouraging to see. And my time with him was nothing short of amazing. He's a great kid. He's a great D partner. Always wanting to get in the mix with me. Even if we low energy type game going on, I looked at him too and hey, let's get something going. Let's throw a few hits, get some energy going. And he was always willing to do it. So. Hats off to him and all the hard work that he's doing this year in the ECHL. I'm sure myself and many other people in Binghamton are proud of him and what he's doing.
Oh, without a doubt. Obviously, we got a lot to talk about, especially I want to get to the Hudson Valley Venom stuff. But your time came to an end with the Black Bears. And I think some of the fans probably don't know all the reasons, and maybe this is not the real avenue to kind of talk about that. But you were, I think, extremely disappointed that you weren't going to continue on with Binghamton, only 18 games in 2022, 2023. Can you talk about the experience about, leaving the Black Bears? Obviously, you were not happy about it at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that I was, unhappy in an aggressive way. Obviously, sure. Yes, it was a dream come true to be able to play in my hometown. Necessarily how it was handled, it made me upset, absolutely, because, I wasn't really getting a whole lot of communication. At the end of the day, I had talked to Gary Gill, months prior to the season because he wanted to bring me back. Me and Gary are still very, very close. We talk very, very often. He's a fantastic human and a great coach. Obviously, everyone see how he's turned that team around in Monroe right now. So, my hat's off to Gary and the patience that he had through that first couple of months here in Binghamton, because it wasn't easy. I mean, we had a new group of guys. You know, he was dealing with some stuff as well back home. So like, I love Gary Gill to death. I mean, he's a great human being. He was always there, always a voice to, provide some reason to me, because, obviously I'm an emotional player, and, good reason as to why I'm the player I am today is because of, the conversations I've had with Gary and how I need to carry myself on and off the ice. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, it was, we know how it ended with Gary and Binghamton. I mean, he had to take a leave.
Yep.
And then Brantley came in to take over. And I truthfully just think that, he thought I had a more relaxed approach to the Federal Hockey League, and that's realistically just not what I had at all. I would have done anything for that team. Similar to what I'm doing here in Elmira, holy cow. We're talking too much about Elmira tonight. But similar to what I'm doing here in Poughkeepsie. I mean, like, I worked in those bars downtown for a lot of years. After those hockey games, I take the entire team to the bars that I used to work at. We don't wait in any lines. We get drink deals. Those aren't sponsorships that we deal with. Those are, personal relationships that I've set up with people over my time here.
Sure.
And, I like to take care of the guys. I like to make sure everybody's having a fun time. So, just for, and like, even when I wasn't playing, like those first couple of months in Binghamton, I mean, Gary knew that, there was people that were viewing me as like a relaxed player in the league, when realistically I was skating for 4 hours a day with the USPHL program and the Scranton Knights. And I was working for Pennsylvania State DOT during night. So I would work at the hockey rink from 3:30, 4 o'clock until 10 p.m. I'd go directly from the hockey rink to the construction job. I would work through the night. Obviously get to wake up or get done with work in the morning, get to go home and sleep for a little bit, and then I'd go right back to the rink every day.
Right.
So, I mean, I think he just thought that I wasn't really taking it seriously and taking necessary steps for preparation, which I can agree with him to some sort. Obviously, you can't just not practice for the team.
Yeah.
But I had responsibilities, and at the end of the day, I was asked to come in and help that hockey team. It's not like I tried out for that team. I did not.
Right.
It was, hey, I'm in the area. I'll help you guys out in whatever way I can. Whenever they needed me for PR stuff, I showed up. Whenever they needed me to do stuff over the summer when none of the players were here, I did it. Without blinking an eye, because I took pride in playing for that hockey team, and I'll always have that to look back on.
Totally understand. And, and I think there is a perspective that you now have being a head coach as well, having to, in some cases, fight for your guys, work hard for your guys, but also have to make tough decisions, right? And that's really something that, as a player, sometimes players don't understand that, but head coaches do. And I'm not saying that anything was, perfect or hunky-dory when you left, but there is a little bit of perspective that you have now, 2 years later, 3 years later, that maybe you didn't have at that moment. And the cool thing about life is that that's how we grow, right? And that's how we kind of get, better in life, is that we take a look at those experiences and go, yeah, maybe I got shit on a little bit, but I think I understand a little bit better now today, because I'm doing kind of a similar thing to understanding that. And that's something that people don't realize, and fans don't know, right? Fans don't they don't know the ins or outs. It's not like MJ Maerkl's walking away the next day and going, oh, I just got crapped on. It's not like Brant's going to come out and go, well, we had tough conversations with MJ. That doesn't really get played out anywhere. And it's just circumstantial, talk and noise and stuff like that.
And the rumor mill with this league, holy.
Oh, yeah. So, but then you head to Elmira, and I just want to apologize from the hockey gods that you had to suffer 2 years in Elmira. And I only say that in the sense that I think the fans have suffered in Elmira. I think the fans have given up in Elmira, unfortunately, because there was 2 years where I think there was two Elmira teams, the Mammoth and, of course, the River Sharks, who the players probably played their guts out. They tried to do the best they could. Jurich tried to do the best he could, but it just, in the end, it was just, I feel like you guys suffered there. And I don't know. I don't even know what else to say about it because nothing seemed to just click and work for you guys in Elmira, unfortunately.
Right. And, I mean, when you have a rink that doesn't really want to work with you and want to see you succeed and, work as, towards a common goal, you'll have that.
Yeah.
Pretty much every move that we tried to make last year as far as promotional stuff, just absolutely anything. We would have, some sort of hesitation, I don't know if we're going to let you do this. We don't know if you can do that. I'm just like, listen, I agreed to take on a job here at the arena to
Can you explain what your role was? Because you weren't just a defenseman for the River Sharks. You were also doing what? Explain that to the fans so they understand.
So I played 36 games for the River Sharks last year.
Mm-hmm.
I was the assistant coach. I was the hockey director there, so I did all the scheduling for youth hockey, and then I also co-managed the rink as well. So I'd be at the rink from when we got there at probably 8:30, 9 o'clock until about 10:30, 11 o'clock every day, closing down the rink. I had the liberty of being able to hire a few of the guys to try to break up my schedule a little bit.
Right.
But, it was basically my job to be within the management team to provide a little bit of insight to people that obviously just didn't understand the market because, Robbie was able to do it well because he was able to give away free tickets and this, that, and the other. But, the delusion of what a ticket costs in that city is just, it's beyond me at this point.
Right.
But yeah, realistically, it was just every little thing. We got rid of a player. They had something to say about this. Well, he was really like, what are you doing? And then we'd get compared to the enforcers, or and then there was
or the Jackals.
Because I'll air it all out. We were provided a budget to operate there, and after the budget was provided, the rink felt like they didn't need to do absolutely anything else to help with production. So he left it up to me and Don.
Wow.
And John Clement.
Yeah, and I think John Clement left with a few weeks left to go in the season, and I think that kind of started to tell a story that the broadcaster's leaving, who is probably doing a lot of stuff outside of just broadcasting, right? Of course, when you're in Binghamton and you're the broadcaster, yeah, you might be selling here a little bit, you might be doing that, right. But you're still the broadcaster, right? And so you do all your broadcasting duties first, and then maybe you meet with an advertiser or a sponsor or whatever it might be. But for the most part, you're doing that. John Clement was probably doing that and 3 times more.
Yeah, I think the same goes for just about everybody that was involved for that year.
Yeah,
the past 2 years rather. Man of many hats is what we like to call him.
No, without a doubt. So, what was your first conversation with Pat Manning? Explain how that goes, because obviously there was a lot of conversations over the summer, some news coming out. Okay, looks like the team's going to be going to Poughkeepsie at first, and then it turned into Newburgh. But do me a favor, so we can tell the story the proper way. What was your first conversation with Pat Manning?
My first conversation, I basically was offered the head position. I took, a little over a month to go down, explore the area. I did a little bit of work, started doing some sponsorship work. I was spending about 2 days a week down there, pretty much every week for the entirety of the summer.
Right.
It was pretty much just him feeding me plans. Like, I got this planned and I got this planned. But, I would never see him around the rink, really. We met here and there when he needed to give me the penny's worth of money that he was giving me over the summer to travel there to do business. But I would hardly see him. I tried to get him to piggyback on sponsorship conversations with myself. I asked him for, and my first, one of my first initial conversations with Pat, I was like, listen, if we're going to do this, I'm telling you right now, this is the reason why we weren't doing so hot in Elmira as far as promotional stuff. I go, make me a commercial.
Yeah.
Just make me a commercial so we can get it in the public eye so people know that this is going to be a legit thing.
Right.
June went by, July went by, August went by. Now we're getting ready for players to come in. Still no construction in the rink. Still no commercial. I still haven't met the entire production team for our team, which I come to find out that it was just his family.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of what you're saying, is you were looking for a commercial because you got to promote the team within the community that you want to come and buy tickets and come to the games. Because if you don't have that, you fall into the situation that you guys eventually fell into, correct?
Exactly. People think that you're just trying to snake money out of them for just some ragdag thing. And truthfully, I think that he may or may not have kind of ruined the market for us the year prior. He had that senior A team, that APHL team, the most garbage hockey I've ever seen. He had them, he deluded the minds of everybody in Poughkeepsie thinking that was pro hockey. He was passing it off as pro hockey, which it's the furthest thing from it. I'm telling you right now, I know this from experience because he tried to force me to sign guys on my federal league team from that APHL team.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong, there is a select few of people on that team that can play in our league, which you will see signed with our team because you know how it goes with federal league.
Sure.
Injuries, call-ups. You're in those spots, and it's available for us to sign guys on the spot.
Right.
So go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you. So there were promises that really just weren't kept leading up to game number 1 from Pat Manning and from what you thought was going to be something that you were going to have some support. You didn't really have the support.
Correct. And that's initially why I ended up turning down the head job at first. Because I had seen how ill-prepared that they were and the arena was. Mm-hmm. I was getting bothered by the league. I was like, hey, they were saying, hey, can you send us, updated pictures of the construction, of the rink, so we know that everything's, on par for opening night. And, I sit there and turn the pad. I was like, hey, man, these guys are asking for, where we're at with production. And when these bleachers are getting installed, and when you're apparently planning to do this $160,000 renovation, and he's like just stall him, just tell him that you're working outside of the rink, or tell him you're not working at the rink, or something like that. It's just it was basically just a whole sequence of shady events. And obviously, I didn't lie to anybody about that. I was like, hey, you should really just talk to Pat about this, because it's out of my hands. I'm just a coach here.
So let me ask you this question, because I've made it perfectly clear on my show many times. Player head coaches, it doesn't work. I know. I'm pretty sure that Matt Graham is doing about 15 jobs up in Port Huron. And if he stopped and did maybe 3 instead of 15, maybe the team would be a little bit better. And that's not a knock on Matt Graham personally as a person. I just don't believe in player head coaches. Do you think? Right. And I absolutely 100% respect Josh Newberg. Matter of fact, I've tried to get Josh Newberg on my show for the past 3 years because I truly do. He was my. I'll be honest, the first year I wasn't doing the show, he was my favorite player on the team. I thought Josh Newberg that first year was the captain of the Binghamton Black Bears. He never got the C. He always wore an A. Do you think Josh was in the wrong place at the wrong time for those first 4 or 5 games?
I wouldn't necessarily say that because, I'm sure everyone that listens to this show can agree that Josh is a very talented hockey player.
He knows hockey. He coaches. He teaches kids, youth hockey players all the time. It's something that he does as a livelihood outside of being a part of the Fed.
And that's why I agreed to work with him initially, because I was like, listen, if we're going to do this, I need somebody that's actually willing to work with me, somebody that I'm comfortable with. And then we got into the conversations about trading for Josh in Virginia. Me and Pat did. Mm-hmm. And I was like, listen, if this is the route we're going to go, I would be comfortable with Josh. This is somebody that I have a ton of respect for. He was my captain in Binghamton, and I've never personally had any issues, and I don't think he's a selfish person whatsoever. So I authorized the trade, and I was like, absolutely, like, let's get this thing going. And then, it just little things here and there, obviously, just to make you think some decision making is flawed. Obviously, there's certain times where you think a player should go on the ice, and then obviously your head coach is inserting himself. Certainly a major conflict of interest. And I think what we were trying to do is transition into him just being the coach. At one point, I believe, like, truthfully, like, it's not a conversation that was had between me and him, but I mean, what I was told is that he was, almost agreeing to just be the head coach and not play anymore. And at that point, the damage had already been done.
Right. Between him and Pat Manning?
Yes, between him and Pat Manning, because I believe initially he was giving, like, ultimatums, like, if I can't play, I'm not being a part of this.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which realistically, like, I mean, in what world do you think you're going to be able to give an ultimatum with a professional hockey program?
Yeah, without a doubt. So obviously, Josh leaves, you get appointed the head coach, and I've got to be honest with you. I honestly think the team changed for the better. I think the players started playing for you like they couldn't play necessarily for Josh, because one of the things I've talked about many times with different coaches, Coach Kirk Klein and Doris from obviously the Binghamton Senators when they won the championship. Obviously, I've talked to Brant enough times about this, is that when you're back there and you're watching the guys on the ice, you see certain things and you make adjustments, right? People don't realize how hard it is that if you're a player head coach and you're out on the ice and you're not seeing the 360, so to speak, right? You can't make the proper adjustments. As soon as you started coaching the team full time behind the bench, and I know you were back there most of the time anyways as the assistant, but you started making adjustments, and I think the team started to get a lot better as well. Would you not agree on that?
Well, first of all, I appreciate that. I definitely think that the respect level shifted a bit when, it was just one person they were looking to for answers.
Yeah.
Not that I don't think Josh didn't do a fantastic job, given the situation that we were put in. I mean, obviously we were, and I'll touch on this now. I mean, housing wasn't ready for us when we first initially moved here.
Yeah.
We were promised that we were going to be on a state-of-the-art campus. And apparently there was some insurance issues with us getting onto the campus. It had everything. It had meal plan stuff. It had a cafeteria for the guys to eat in. It had a Olympic swimming pool. It had a fitness center. Like, we were on a private campus, like, fully set up. The only obstacle we had was the insurance. And what I came to find out is he didn't want to drop the money for the insurance for us to get onto campus.
Now, where's this you're talking about? Poughkeepsie?
Yeah, and this would have been right up the road from the rink in Poughkeepsie. Would have been on Mount St. Mary campus. So yes, we would, because apparently their attendance has dropped significantly in the past couple of years due to COVID. So they have a bunch of like, not abandoned, but unoccupied dormitories. So they were going to give us one full building for all of our guys to stay in with 3 or 4 kitchens.
But unfortunately, what most fans probably don't understand is that the owner of the team would have to have paid for some sort of insurance to have that.
A massive insurance clause. We're talking, covering everything as far as, liability, sexual harassment, they're in the general public. So we have to make sure all our bases are covered.
So that precipitated you guys then having to go play in Newburgh.
Yes.
Where did you guys stay? Like, how did that work out? Like, how housing is in Binghamton. It's Whitney Point, and, maybe Whitney Point apartments aren't the greatest thing in the world, and some of the guys might complain about it, but it's probably better living than some of the stuff I heard about in Mississippi and other cities in the Fed. Where did you guys stay in Newburgh? What was the housing like down in Newburgh?
So we originally were put in a Comfort Inn, which wasn't the worst thing in the world.
Sure.
I had known that we were going to have to do it for at least 2 weeks to wait for the college thing to get figured out. Obviously I was searching in town for every other different option, talked to a bunch of real estate companies. But, I guess initially they wanted to put the team in Poughkeepsie. So ideally the Mount St. Mary's would have worked. But the owner, Pat, was so gung-ho about the senior team and how good they were and the fact that they won the championship, even though it's terrible hockey, that they thought that they were going to. I'm going to be honest. The original idea for Pat was he was going to hire that coach, and this is a God's honest truth. Before me and Josh were even brought into the equation, until Don and a couple other league officials told him, like, you're sadly mistaken if you think you're just going to put your APHL team in the Federal League. You're going to get killed every game.
Right. And
so he was originally going to hire that head coach and then try to put as many kids from that team on this roster as possible.
Wow.
And then, obviously, everything kind of fell through the cracks. Like, they wanted to keep the good, apparently the quality of product good for the Vipers at Poughkeepsie, so they focused on putting us there. He went out and found a bunch of unrealistic grants for the rink to take responsibility for. So you know how grants work. You have to spend the money first before you get it.
Yeah.
So he pretty much signed the rink up to spend $160,000 of their money, maybe even more. And then he was like, hey, like, you have to spend this money and then I'll get you the money back. And that's a lot of trust for somebody that, isn't really listening to you from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because the rink people, they own both rinks. They own Newburgh and they own Poughkeepsie.
Yeah, well, that kind of... And that kind of brings us to, like, there's going to be games in Poughkeepsie at that rink, correct? But how do you work through the owners of the two rinks are really so soured on everything to be able to play there?
So a lot of dinner meetings, nonetheless. It's been a pretty consistent thing since all of this has happened with the Manning family. Mm-hmm. I find myself on the phone pretty much every single day with the management team at the arena, trying to get together promotional stuff. But it was basically us just gaining the trust back of those people. A couple different conversations, a couple different understanding conversations, like, this is where I'm coming from. Hey, I've been with like two to three expansion teams in the past 4 years. I've been a part of a very successful market, meaning Binghamton, New York, where they took a failing AHL market, and now we have one of the more successful hockey markets in all sports. Based off of just population, right? Like, for the amount of people that are in Binghamton as compared to the amount of people that turn out for those games, that's a good percentage.
I'm so glad you said that, MJ, and I know you're a Binghamton guy, so you get it. It is so very true. It only seats 4893 when you count all the skyboxes and everything. And there are cities in the AHL and the ECHL that don't even come close to, and they have bigger markets. These are bigger markets I'm talking about. Even just take a look at Utica. Utica can barely get 2,000 fans into that arena, and they're doing all this renovation. Somebody's putting so much money into Utica. They got the new digital boards now, right? And Binghamton tomorrow night, you're going to be there. Obviously, we're recording this on Monday night, fans. I do apologize for the way we're recording this and when you're going to hear this, but 4893 it's going to be a sellout when the Venom and the Black Bears play against each other, right? Utica hasn't had a sellout in a few years. I mean, so that's AHL versus the Fed. So I totally hear where you're coming from there.
So, I mean, it's nice to be able to provide some insight to these people, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, a lot of people just don't understand the margins of the league and all the different opportunities for you to promote and, kind of get cities to fall in love with the product, right? What we're trying to do is right now we're trying to get heavily involved with youth hockey. I know Binghamton already does it, which is kind of where I start with all this. Is, I loved everything I did to them. Any opportunity I had to go out with youth hockey when I was playing for Binghamton, I did it. Showed up at hockey games for the kids. You have to get the general public to fall in love with what you have.
Right.
And Binghamton figured that out because they do all sorts of PR events and stuff like that. So. It's just stuff that I'm trying to pass on to these other ownership groups, and do my best to try to help the league out as best I can, and that's all I can really do.
Okay, so let's talk about a few of the players on the Venom, right? We've talked about a lot of logistics. You guys have gone through postponements and all the adversities of lame duck owner, basically, that type of thing. But you've got some good players on this team. Can we talk a little bit about Noriega? Where the hell did you guys find this guy? I mean, he's got a 2.3 points per game average. He's got 20 goals in 15 games. He's a monster on the power play. Can you tell me about this guy?
I mean, I'll give credit where it's due. I mean, Josh and myself, we worked with countless agents over the summer trying to find just, something different, something that we haven't really seen from this league. Obviously you can invite all the people in the world to try out for your hockey team, but, having quality candidates on the ice for opening in camp was a step in the right direction for us. So, I mean, hats off to Josh, and I couldn't have asked for better help as far as putting together a hockey team. But like I said, it was a lot of late nights talking to owners that are in different time zones, trying to connect with them. But yeah, Norika's absolutely fantastic. I mean, his work ethic, his compete. The kid just wants he just wants to keep scoring. He's like a machine. He truthfully is. He's got one speed, and he is extremely professional. He did play a little bit in the World Juniors.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of at a loss for words with him because, I mean, as far as production, it's not really something we see too often in this league. I mean, the kid just continues to score in the same spots, like time and time and again, no matter what people try to do to stop him.
Yeah, he's got probably more skill in his right hand than I do in my whole body when it comes to playing hockey. We've seen some of the stuff that he can do. Another guy on your team I want to get your thoughts on is Dustin Jesso. Now, I know he's suspended for 3 games for whatever happened, but there's skill in Jesso that people don't realize is there because there's all the other antics that happen with him, banging on the glass, getting into it with fans and the referees, blah blah blah. But the kid has got some physical skill there as well.
Oh my goodness, does he ever? And when he decides he wants to play an all-around hockey game,
he's great.
I'm telling you right now, even if he decides he doesn't want to play an all-around hockey game, he is the most talented hockey player in this league.
Well,
there's no question about it.
MJ, I asked Brant, how do you keep Dustin thinking about hockey and not about all the other stuff? So let me ask you, how do you get Dustin to think about hockey and not all the other stuff? It's hard.
So it's a little bit different this year than I had Dustin last year. Okay. I mean, truthfully, in my personal opinion, I mean, suspension aside, his upcoming suspension aside, I truthfully believe that I have the guy at his most healthiest mindset yet. Mm-hmm. I mean, I look to the kid for, to help with mentoring these young kids. He's on board with me helping the kids. He wants to set good examples. Obviously, his emotions get the best of him once in a while.
Sure.
I mean, he's obviously a player that doesn't necessarily belong in this league. He guys like Dustin are extremely, extremely good for this league. Not only for the entertainment value, but just for the overall, quality of it. You just never know what he's going to pull out of his bag, right? Like he can control the pace of the game, and that's without even making him angry. You want to make him angry, and he can completely ruin everybody in the arena's night altogether.
Right. And he's had Binghamton's number a few times, right? I mean, let's be honest.
Doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to ask you about Brett Parker. Why is he your captain?
Truthfully, I've been through a lot with Brett. He's one of the more down-to-earth people that I know. He's been through, a tremendous amount of adversity, especially with how he ended his time in Binghamton. He was hurt. I'm not sure if anybody else really knows this, but he was kind of hurt with you guys, and obviously it was right around training camp time, so I don't really think he was really given the amount of time to fully recover and expect him to be back in the lineup. So, I mean, I basically was given, I mean, he was released and I picked him up the following day. It was basically a gift. I mean, the kid he's a great human being. The guys in the locker room respect him. He understands how this league works, and as far as, obviously there's curveballs thrown at us all the time, this year in particular, but he just he accepts the position that we're in, and he's like, okay, we need to adjust. It's like, okay, let's make the best out of a bad situation. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he's been a tremendous, tremendous amount of help this year, as far as keeping everybody bought in and kind of seeing through the BS that we've been given this year. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I couldn't be happier with Brett. He's great to have, and I look forward to having him the rest of the year.
When you announced, I watched the interview between you and Jim Cerny, which how cool is it to have a guy who worked with the Rangers for so long and who's done so much in hockey be able to be somebody that you can kind of work with to help promote the team. But I watched the interview that you did with Jim when you announced the leadership group. And I think there was a little bit of a smile on your face when you said, Brett Parker's my captain, he's a forward. And then you named 3 defensemen as your alternates. And I kind of saw a smile on your face like, yeah, I'm going to stick it to everybody. I'm going to make all of my defensemen, captains on this team. Why? I mean, we know Austin Pickford and Mark Pozar and the kind of players they are. But there's something else about these guys that made you think they got to be part of my leadership group.
Well, truthfully, in my eyes, I'm extremely fortunate to have as strong of a defensive core as I have. Mm-hmm. These guys have all played a year in the league. Even Connor Craig, who's actually he's not a leader, but he was with us in our time in Elmira last year. These returning guys, I have a ton of respect for them just based off of what we dealt with last year, and then to be able to come back in with a great attitude and be in contact with me all summer.
Right.
I felt like it was handled extremely well, and I mean. I know. We'll have an off game once in a while. Obviously, we know how this league works. Teams fall apart, and sometimes things just don't mesh one night. But I know for a fact that I'm one of the more fortunate coaches in the league because these guys go to war every single night, and I know they bring something that not many teams have. So, they play both sides of the puck. Not afraid to get in the dirty areas. So, I mean, obviously, being a defenseman myself. That's what I wanted to take pride in this offseason was making sure we had a really, really strong defensive group and, make sure everybody knew that that's what we were going to focus on with, having my captains be defensively, focused.
All right, a couple quick things. Will we see games in Poughkeepsie, New York? What's your opinion?
Yes, we will see games in Poughkeepsie, New York. You will actually see a announcement of the schedule and everything either by the end of this week, Sunday, or come early next week.
Excellent. That's good. That's good news. Can this team? They've only played 16 games going into the Binghamton game on Tuesday night, which will already have been played. So you guys would have 17 games. Does that still leave a lot of games left for this team to really kind of, once all the scheduling gets taken care of? I know you guys have been practicing also in Poughkeepsie 3 times a week. That's something that you kind of told me a couple weeks ago. But once you guys get rolling and get more consistent games, like instead of playing just one game or no games on a weekend, do you think this team can get rolling and start racking up some wins?
I mean, truthfully, I think that with the way they're reconfiguring the schedule, I think you're going to see a couple more changes come. But I don't know. We have over 40 games left in our schedule, basically, with all the rescheduling.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how all this is going to play out. It's a lot of hockey games in a short amount of time. So I know for a fact that we've reconfigured our Columbus trip where we're going to play, I think, more than 2 games down there when we go down.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not exactly sure about all the changes that you're going to see, or if we're done with all the changes nonetheless. But I do know for a fact that the league is working diligently with trying to figure out how this is all going to play out.
Gotcha. Okay. One last thing. Give me the player that is on your team that nobody's really talking about yet, right? We've talked about Pickford. We've talked about Norika. We've talked about Jesso. We talked about Brett Parker. Give me the guy that we should be looking for on the ice that maybe people aren't talking about yet.
I mean, truthfully, it could be a couple of different people. I mean, we're extremely short-handed this week, so you're going to see some new faces on my roster. But I truthfully think I'm going to go to one of my captains, Mark Pozar. The kid's been absolutely fantastic as far as covering every sort of thing I've asked for him to do. He's not afraid to fight. He's got he's got more goals than he had last year already at this point in the season. He's extremely offensive. He's extremely professional. He knows how he needs to handle himself around a group of young kids. So, I truthfully think that as far as an all-around player and what I've been asking these players to do, I think Mark's going to be the one that I highlight on, because he really is an all-around person, and he's a fantastic human as well.
All right, MJ, before I let you go, I just want to say again, I believe that one of the big reasons why this team has held it together, has been very competitive, is because of the coaching change to go to you, but also because you've helped keep these guys. You've been kind of the glue to keep these guys together, because a lot of these guys, maybe without the right leadership, might have said, screw this, we don't have an arena, a home arena to play for, and I could completely understand if they all left, and they have not left, and that points towards the leadership group, at least of the team, not necessarily ownership group and things of that nature, but leadership group, which starts with MJ Maerkl, and so I just want to say, I think a lot of credit needs to go to you when it comes to that. So, and again, proud of you, man, because you're a Binghamton-born guy, and making things happen, keeping people together, playing on this team is a big accomplishment. No matter how the season turns out for you guys, it's a big accomplishment to get through this.
Well, I appreciate that, Bob. All we can do is just play the cards you're dealt, right? We're all just trying to stay relevant and stay involved with hockey and do what we love. So it's a great feeling hearing somebody from Binghamton say words like that. So I can't thank you enough for having me on, and letting all the issues be heard of what's going on in Hudson Valley.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always hear things from people, doing what I do, people reach out and say things, but, I can honestly tell you more people who may have criticized you in the past are praising you today just because of the things that you've done to keep this team together. And that's, it's good to sometimes turn people around, right? When it comes to, how they look at you or think about you, and maybe you don't care about that, and that's completely cool, but it is still a great thing that you can turn people around like that. And that's really a good thing, and it's an accomplishment on your part.
I really do appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I know I'm not the easiest guy to like when I'm playing against the Bears at any point, but I was doing that same thing for the Bears at one point in my career as well. So, but doesn't
it also like fire you up as well? I mean, if you think about it, you were on Elmira for 2 years, and you would come in and maybe do some of your antics. There was a player that played for the Binghamton Senators, Jan Platil. I don't know if you remember Yanni. But He was an antagonistic son of a bitch, right? Nobody liked to play against him, right? And that's the kind of the player you were for a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, especially to be compared to somebody like that. Basically, I just like to have fun with it. And unfortunately for other people that I'm playing against, most of my enjoyment comes from hitting people. So it's... like I said, I'm not the best fighter in the world, but I like to put myself in the best position and knock guys off pucks, and kind of hold the presence on the ice. And don't skate with your head down.
Well, I can tell you right now, in the penalty minutes category, MJ Maerkl still sits fourth right now. Obviously, Ballard's number one with 311. Tyson Kirkby, just because he's been here since basically the first year, 278. Gavin Yates with 250 penalty minutes. And then MJ Maerkl sitting there, number 4 with 211. And to finish out the top 5, believe it or not, the most, really one of the most prolific scorers I've seen come through here, Nikita Ivashkin, actually has 207 penalty minutes as well. So that's the top 5 in penalty minutes, and you're still sitting at number 4 right now.
Well, I guess that's something to be proud of. At least I made my mark somewhere. Might not have been on the stat sheet for the right reasons, but we had fun.
Oh, well, listen, hey, a good fight is a good fight no matter what it is, or, being antagonistic is good either way. MJ, thank you very much. Good luck the rest of the way for the Venom. I wish you all the best, man. I really, really, really do. And I know there's a lot of people in Binghamton here that do. A lot of people in Elmira that are wishing you well. And even probably the few fans that are down somewhere in the Hudson Valley area are also wishing you well. So good luck, my friend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, thank you, Bob. Thank you, everyone, for all your support. Like I said, quite a stressful year, but it's nice to know that, people want to see this team do well, and myself especially. So I really do appreciate it, and hopefully we can string together a couple more wins for everyone.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, man. And he's MJ Maerkl, and we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. Thank you very much for listening and getting this far. Now, if you have gotten this far and you've listened to the whole interview with MJ Maerkl, I just want to say one thing. I read some criticism about me choosing to interview MJ Maerkl. And I will say this to anybody who has a problem. He is a Binghamton-born native player and coach now in the Fed, and he's a Binghamton guy, and I'm going to give him all the respect in the world because he's from where I'm from. And I believe there is a story there. There's a story to be told. And just because some people want to hear just one side of a story doesn't mean there isn't a second side. And so I want to give everybody that opportunity to have that. I love and respect everything that I have done over the last 20 years, and I'm going to give everybody who's also from this area, one of the greatest minor league hockey areas, the ability to talk as well. And you don't have to always agree with maybe the people I bring on the show, but without a doubt, I'm going to give everybody the fair opportunity to speak their mind and to talk about whatever they want to talk about. And there were things that I didn't want to necessarily bring up just because I wanted MJ to be able to come on here, do the interview, not feel any pressure. And there were things that he was okay talking about. And if other people feel like I wasn't fair or that the content wasn't good enough, I'm sorry. I'll do better next time and continue to bring what I feel is some of the best in minor league hockey when it comes to content and podcast material. So with that being said, I just want to, again, thank MJ for coming on. I'll probably have him on the show again at some point. I really do feel like there was a lot about the Venom that we didn't get to talk about because this was his first time on the show. He is from Binghamton, and I'm going to give him all the respect in the world for that. This is my show, and I do make the final decisions. I'm the one that has to live with it at the end of the day. And I am absolutely 100% proud of the interview I did with MJ Maerkl. So, with that being said, the Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search Power Play Post Show. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. Thank you to Rob Lepolis, our MC, John Patitucci, our musical director, and as well from the HC Venom Head Coach, MJ Maerkl. Folks, I am Bob Howard. Happy New Year. Hopefully 2025 brings you health and happiness. And thank you very much for listening, as always, to the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.